of both. Yeah, I'm just going to give a brief introduction of both of our speakers, and then after that, I'll pin them so that all of you can get a good look at all three of them, and then I'll just pass the time over to Dalen. Right. Okay, so for Adela, she's a digital product designer with more than 10 years of experience designing and building websites. She is a reliable and easygoing person to work with, and I hope you'll see that too as well when she gives feedback on your UX portfolios, as well as a good record of working in teams and independently. So she's an avid reader and loves anything matcha. As one half of Kiasu Design Live podcast, Adela combines her storytelling skills and passion for design with her knack for speaking spontaneously. Yeah, so that's Adela. And then I also give a brief introduction of Daryl. So he's an adult educator and a digital product designer with over a decade of experience. So clearly between two of them, also Dylan as well, probably have like 30 years of experience all together. And he's passionate about holistic, approachable, and progressive human experiences. He has worked with innovative startups, boutique agencies, SMEs, training centers, and enjoy crafting meaningful experiences. So these are the speakers who will be answering your questions on freelancing. So don't hold anything back and ask whatever you want to ask. But of course, I'm just going to pass the time over to Dalen, who will be moderating the panel for freelancing. Yeah, so over to you, Dalen. I will just go ahead and pin the three of you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Hui, for the introduction. As you all know, I'm Dylan. I'm the founder and general manager at Curious Core, and I'm really glad to see all of you back here today in our annual alumni gathering, which is happening virtually for this session. And I am also very grateful for our speakers for actually spending time to share their experience freelancing. Both Daryl and Adela has freelanced for a number of projects as well as a number of years. So we have a lot of great questions from the crowd today, which I will be sharing. So let me start off by asking a question, like how long did you freelance? What were some of the more memorable clients? So maybe we can start with Adela first.
Okay. My experience freelancing was 5 years. So it's a combination of doing website design development and branding. And then after that, I transitioned a bit into doing a bit of more UX UI. Like the clients didn't really ask for them, but I tried to include them into my projects to practice. And so far, a memorable project would be when it was a 6 months project. And then at the end of it, the client actually gave me like a bag and a little glass with my name, like a gift. Yeah, so it's something that I've never expected to be given from a client, but I guess because they were very satisfied with my service. And then that's my most memorable project. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds great. And what about yourself, Daryl?
Mine was for a startup actually, which has now it's not really a startup anymore, but it's actually for a friend of mine. So the product is called Vizu, Vizu. So she deals with crafting all natural oils and whatnot. So at the beginning, she needed a lot of help with her branding and how to go about tackling her website in general, how to set it up, what the UX and how the IA should be and whatnot, and just basically how to get things going. So I helped her with that, and she's a good friend of mine. And now I think she's doing pretty good for herself. So yeah, shameless plug. You can check out Vizu. It's one of those all organic, all natural, not essential oils but just oils in general, balms and salves and whatnot.
It's very funny because the project that I mentioned, right, was also essential oil client.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that's why they're nicer.
There's a market there.
Okay, so interesting. And I want to ask on like before you all started freelancing, like how many years did you work before you started freelancing? And actually, do you recommend people to have a number of years of working experience before they start freelancing? Yeah, so we'll just start with Adela first.
Yes, I would recommend so. I actually was an in-house designer for 8 years. So I started out at a startup. Then after that, I moved to, so the startup got bought over by a bigger company, SPH. And then SPH, it was in a bigger team. So when I was a startup, I was the only designer. So when I joined the bigger team, then there was like, I think 8 to 10 designers. From there, I learned like, what is it I like about working at a startup and then working in a bigger company. Then eventually I felt that I wasn't growing much anymore. I wanted to go into UX as well. So I left. But after leaving, I really didn't really have a lot of clients on hand. So I only had a few contacts. Like maybe a friend does a business and then this other friend has a small business and they were saying, oh, I'm interested in having a website done. And I'm like, okay, I think there's 2 potential clients. Why not? Give it a go. And I think I only had 3 months worth of savings from my full-time job. After leaving, I read more things and then you realize, oh, actually it's best to have like at least 6 months of runway of savings. Yeah, so I learned it the hard way. But anyway, it was a good learning lah. Yeah.
But you learn from that experience, and
Yeah,
you still managed to make it, right? Like, of course, you did that for 5 years, as you said. So, surely there are things that you did right, and we'll be touching on that in a bit. And yeah, Daryl, what about yourself? Like, how many years did you work before you started freelancing?
I honestly don't remember how many years, but it's not like can anyone be a freelancer? Yes, of course. How many years of experience should? So it's not really it's not a question with a very straightforward answer, right? There are two points to think about. I think the first one is, in theory, like Adila mentioned, it's always good to have a couple of years under your belt where you start when you're working and you're freelancing, so you get to know what are the things you will want to do. That's why you start building up your network. And then the second part of it is, I think, if you really want to get into freelancing, you don't need years of experience to make the switch. You just simply need to start, because it's kind of like a chicken egg situation. So imagine the scenario where you have 0 years of experience, right? So how this is going to go? You get what you need, you learn what you get, you use what you learn, then you evaluate and you loop until you did, right? So really two sides to think about this. And also, I don't think it's about experience. It's really about being able to identify your particular skill set and find people who need it, and then maintaining that high level of organization and discipline, and having raw nerve. So I think, like for myself, when I started freelancing, I was similar to Adila. I have a full-time job, and that's where your starter network is always going to come in, right? So friends, family. So just I freelanced at the side, and I kept doing it even though I had a full-time job. So it was always simultaneously lah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I love that you all touched on the question of money. I believe a lot of people are very curious and are interested to know. So here's a general question to start off. Like, do you earn more when you average it out? Do you actually earn more than your last full-time role when you freelance? Just as a general question.
For me, it was the starting year, of course, not so much because nobody knows you. And then you haven't built out your network. And then it was only after, like, I think during my 2nd year or 3rd year, then I was able to raise my prices a bit more, especially when my work speaks for itself, and then people like start to trust me, right? And then they start to recommend me to other people, other businesses. And then it was only when I was able to target the more bigger clients, like for example, maybe a media company who decides to subcon a website, but they just need someone to come in, so they bring me in. So for them, I was able to charge a bit more, like a lot more than my usual price. So I guess it depends on the project as well and the client.
Okay. And we'll also leave a segment for questions later, in case you can unmute yourself as well. But for now, I'll just kind of go through some of the more interesting questions we received. Yeah, Daryl, like, do you earn more money from freelancing or a full-time job?
I would say I earn more money in a full-time job. for sure, because it's a lot. The revenue is stable. Freelancing is really about me selling whatever free time I have. I wasn't too committed as a freelancer, but I didn't want to go all out, and I'm sure Dylan will get into the whys much later on. But for me, it was always I wouldn't say I wanted to autopilot, so I didn't want to manage like the full circle of freelancing lah. So for me, earning wise, I was always
So
earning more.
you were just like pretty chill, like you just kind of like be a little bit more laid back in that sense.
Lazy, laid back, yeah, same thing. But yeah.
Well, okay, sure. I mean, yeah, that's sometimes how people start off. But it's really good to know. I mean, it is true. Like, I think it's a very worthy goal to set, like in your first year, to replace your previous income. I think that's a very worthy goal. But
yeah.
I would say the actual number of people who actually hit that goal, they are very, very, very few, very, very little. So it does require, like what Adela said, like a certain amount of discipline in not just designing but also soliciting the business itself. So something about money as well, like, you know, do you how do you all decide how to charge your initial rate? Like how do you decide like how to price yourself initially?
Initially, I wanted to go with hourly rate. At the start, I was so clueless about things, and then I tried Googling and then tried to find information, and then eventually I learned about value-based pricing, something I picked up researching about business and marketing, and then they were like, for example, I took up a course on value-based pricing strategy, and then it was an expensive course, but I learned a lot. And then about anchoring pricing and all that, and then putting a value to your work instead of just counting the hours. Yeah.
I'm gonna like on behalf of the listeners ask for the 3 biggest tips and takeaway from the class.
So I only learned about value-based pricing, anchoring more in I think in my second or third year. So at the very start, I was starting with hourly rates, just estimating, reading forums, and then because I'm doing web development work, so I could also go into development forums and see how much they are charging. But I wasn't like doing hard coding, so it was still dependent. So it was a bit of hit and miss, a bit of trial and error. So sometimes I get the project, sometimes I don't get the project. So then I realized, okay, certain customers who are like home-based businesses, very small startup, they can only go up to this range. And then I realized if I try to add on more things to justify my price, it doesn't make sense because they really cannot afford it. So I just go simpler. Then I realized over time, what clients need is sometimes they just put 3 bullet points, this is the price, 3 bullet points, this is the price, and they're just fine with it. Because sometimes they also don't know what they want. So I talk to them further, then we clarify on things, and then that's where I get to justify the price.
I think value-based pricing is really interesting because when I advise most people when they start off, it's like, hey, you know, just take your previous salary and just divide it by the number of working days that you have, right? And please include your CPF into the next, because no one's paying you CPF and buying you insurance and all this stuff, right? But then it is also good that you price based on value, which is basically like what is the willingness to pay, what is the affordability of the client, and then you just price it based on that. And if it's a bigger company, you know, you set like a higher range for yourself, on the upper range for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, was I disconnected? Okay. Oh yeah, my internet connection is a little unstable. Maybe too many tabs on my side. Yeah, so I think basically value-based pricing is really helpful because it allows you to kind of be flexible, have an upper range, have a lower range. You said something about price anchoring. What exactly did you do that?
This is a tip, I guess, for everyone also. So what I did was I learned that basically you have simple package and then a basic package and a more custom, all the bells and whistles package. So what you do is when you talk to the client, when the client asks you for pricing, you tell them, I will only tell you the pricing after I've spoken the middle package. If let's say they are really tight on funds, they'll just take basic. And basic is like super basic. And then so it's like basic can be maybe just one website, one page. You have to edit by yourself. For example, meaning I put in demo content, after that you have to edit by yourself. And the second package, the middle package is basically hitting all the things that they need for their problem, and then you just give a bit of extra service, like maybe some bonus graphics, or I can give you a bonus copywriting guide, something like that. And then for the third package is basically all the things that they need and all extra things like best recommended things for their website, best fonts for them to use, and then you even give support for their website, hands-on support, something extra, like basically, like how you buy certain packages. Yeah, so what happens is usually if they are tight on budget, they might just go to the second and the first package. Very rare, but I don't know, I guess the way I convince them is good. There have been 2 occasions where they go for the full whistle package. Yeah, so it's more of anchoring to see whether which one do they really want. Yeah, so the middle one, maybe their budget is, maybe this is just an example, maybe their budget is just 2K. So the middle one will be okay, 2K. Then the basic one will be super simple, maybe just 1K, which is within your range. And then the last one, I make it up to 6K straight, meaning I push it all the way, extreme. I'm not convinced whether they're gonna take it. But then when they look at all the things that they need and all the extra bonuses, they end up signing up for the last package. Then that's why I know, okay, I hit the jackpot. Actually, they can afford it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really excellent advice, because in very high-end restaurants, they also use price anchoring in their menu, right? That's basically one item in the menu that is like ridiculously expensive, and it just makes all the items that are priced also quite relatively expensive look cheaper because one of the items it's so ridiculously expensive that everything just seems cheaper. So that's kind of like the price anchoring effect. So excellent advice, Adila over there. And yeah, what about Daryl? Like how do you price your services, or how do you price yourself?
Well, mine's gonna be, I actually done value based, but my approach is after doing that, right? So to start, I'm always thinking I am not just a person working for the client. I'm essentially a business providing a service to another business. So I charge for day rates, and each day is 7 hours. I charge full rates even if a project doesn't run over. And I find a lot less friction with clients and billing this way, as it gives them a better idea of how much the project will cost, which everyone obviously prefers. So regardless, I charge a lot more because it's my free time that I'm selling. And like Adila mentioned earlier, if your work is good, people will pay. So 3 types of billing models that I typically go by. One is the hourly rate. So I have a general rate of, can't remember what the amount was. I think it was like some 150 an hour or something like that for new client work. But for long-term repeat clients that give me steady work, I can be very flexible with that rate. So I base my hourly rates on salary, insurance, taxes, mortgages, utilities, supplies, marketing expenses, travel expenses, and whatnot. So from here, I estimated how many billable hours I can manage in a year, and then divide that total cost by that number. So that's for hourly. Another billing model that I use is project-based. So and really all these 3 models depend on the type of project that I undertake. So for project-based, after spending lots of time in the industry, you will generally have a good idea of how many hours, say, a website is going to take, especially once that you've already had like in-depth conversation with a potential client to define the scope of the project. So like Adila mentioned earlier, I'm not going to tell you the price until I sit down and actually have some sort of gathered my requirements, right? So that's that. Then so after having in-depth conversation with a potential client to define the scope of project, and that's when the pricing will kick in. I then multiply the number of projected hours by my rate. The caveat to this is that you must clearly outline the scope of the project. So that's something to keep in mind. And the third one I go by is contract based. So contract based, really, that's for some clients, I have retainers. So that's going to say that I give you X amount of hours per week, and then you pay me X amount of dollars per hour lah. So that rate is usually say about 3/4 of my regular hourly rate, maybe half, depending on the client lah. Yeah, the important thing to take away from this is whichever model that you choose to use, I think it's very important to track all your time lah. So that's the commonality between whatever models that you want to use lah. Yeah. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I also say that maybe sometimes it's not just about the money, right? Sometimes it's about the relationship as well, right? I think what Daryl you just shared is, preserving that relationship and valuing that relationship over just like, oh, are you meeting my hourly rate or daily rate or something like that? And I think having clients that stay with you and keep giving you work over time is actually more valuable than you trying to find new clients again and again and again.
Yep.
So I think sometimes preserving that relationship makes sense. Okay, so how do you deal with low ballers? Have you all encountered low ballers? How do you deal with them? Like, I mean, on Carousel we deal with low ballers all the time. I'm sure there are low balling clients.
For me, I did have my fair share of poor experience with low ballers. Not saying that, not shaming friends, but certain friends, they may lowball you to a certain extent where they try to emotionally blackmail you into doing the work for them.
Wow, that sounds really heavy.
There was one time there was a friend who wanted to work with me for a website, and then when I told her my price, then she started giving me a sad story about how she's having a lawyer for other business, she's getting fined, and then she's struggling with this and that. And then because I was sympathy, it was at one time I was sympathy, I closed one eye and I just agreed to it. When I told myself it's a red flag, don't take it. But I just like, yeah, it's just this one friend. Then the experience was very poor because at such a low amount, it was just a 3-digit number that I shouldn't have taken on, but it was a heartache lah. Basically, I was like trying to swallow so much and not because you're trying to take care of a friendship, and then she was expecting like this 5-star experience, like I should be getting this. I'm like, no, it's not fair for my other clients. They pay more than you. Yeah, I tried to explain that to her, but eventually, no hard feelings lah after that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a major red flag. That's a major red flag. But thank you for sharing that story so openly as well. And I think it hurts doubly much because it's coming from someone you know. If it's someone you don't know, you don't really care, right? So yeah.
That's the thing about friends, because I have another friend who also hired me for her website because she's an illustrator. She was willingly paying like more than 3K for her website, and then she was understanding, and then whenever I charge her, she just pay on time. So it's really trial and error to see how your friends value you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Azula. I don't know, Daryl, would you recommend working with friends? I'm not sure about that.
I work with anyone, man. So I think, okay, so again, two different approaches that you can take when you encounter lowballing clients that you just can't afford to pass up, right? So in the beginning, when you start freelancing, it's always going to be all throughout, it's always going to be a question of time versus budget versus your resources. So For lowballing clients, I do it to keep the money flowing while working on finding new clients. So once you have more clients paying you a higher rate, then I would typically renegotiate with the lesser paying client. And if they accept the new rate, then fine, that's great lah. If not, you have more time to do the work for the other clients to find new ones. So once you're booked full time, then you lather, rinse, and repeat lah. So new higher paying clients will always replace lower ones. So circle of life, right? So you look for new clients so that you are non-dependent on a single client. But having said that, you have to disclaim like, okay, since it's lower, right? Then you will typically take a longer time to deliver this project lah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first approach, first mindset. Versus, here's the kicker. So you can get stuck in this trap or taking on work whenever you have any availability. You need to hold. The other mindset is you need to hold off for better paying clients if you want to have the capacity to deliver excellent customer service to them. Because ultimately, low paying jobs beget more low paying jobs. A single higher paying job will allow you to network with and get word of mouth from similar related businesses and associates or of the people working at the company that is simply paying more lah. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's how you what approach you want to take. So
Okay.
that's how I handle it lah.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent advice. I would say in general, because you would want to be smart about it, right? And you don't want to also offend your existing clients because they're paying clients, right? And maybe you have a existing relationship. And I read this somewhere in a book where they said you just have to tell them nicely, hey, my availability is filling up, and next year or moving forward, this is gonna be my day rate, right? And I'm not saying no to your request. It's just that there's going to be more limited availability if you prefer to stick to the old rate. And I thought that was a very good way to raise your pricing gradually over time.
Yeah. And not to like generalize lah, but like if you're gonna work with very very difficult kind of clients, right? Then you kind of already know what to expect, what's going to happen down the road.
You have to add the pain tax inside.
Yeah. Do you really want to put yourself through that? So that's just answer that question before any of you start your freelancing.
Awesome. And for those sitting in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand button, and I'll just call you up, and we can have answer some of your questions. But we may have just time for one or two more because we're going to move to the next section on portfolio. But do I have any questions from the crowd? Okay, if not, then I'm just going to ask one more question from my pool of questions. How do you continuously make sure that you have a steady stream of like projects or clients? And either one of you can go first.
For me, it would be I try to see how I try to stretch out clients like for a few months, and then from there, while I'm trying to do that work, but I also make sure that every week I'm marketing myself, because I was quite active on Instagram. So that helped a lot. And then other than that, I did go for like in-person networking before COVID happened. In-person networking events, and then just try to put the word out there. There were times where I have friends who are in the industry where they have events, where they have booths. So I even put my flyer and my name card and all that. I booked a booth like basically, and then put that my service is so and so, and this is what I do. Yeah, so that was more of really me stepping out of my comfort zone and just being there, just getting my name out there. Yeah. And another way was one of my other friend was running a small marketing agency, and then she had a ad placement for a YouTube video, and she approached me to it, and then I said, okay, why not? So I just put it there as well. So these were the different areas that I so-called advertise myself at the same time while I'm trying to do the work. And then, like for example, on Instagram, when I'm doing the work itself, I would take like behind the scenes shot of, oh hi, walk with me to my day to day. Then I was like taking,
So
okay,
like BTS, yeah.
yeah, BTS, like behind.
Nice.
Today's
Nice.
agenda is so and so, like very, it's like a bit like romantic.
It's a little bit like an influencer kind of like, yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit like that.
All right. Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's your style, and that worked for you for 5 years. And Daryl, yeah, how do you make sure you have consistent number of clients?
I don't have any friends at any marketing agencies. But yeah, right from the get-go, strong portfolio, strong website that's easy to access and navigate. Of course, your networking, your design events, your LinkedIn, going to pay for like LinkedIn Premium, reaching out to businesses who could use design work, word of mouth. In reality for me, your mileage is definitely going to vary lah. But in reality for me, the personal connections are what will sustain you. So anytime you get clients, be it word of mouth or whatever, get to know them, like actually talk to them, not just through email, and make them want to work with you as a person. And I find that they will keep coming back lah. And networking aside, right? I always worry more about my skills and processes rather than marketing myself lah. So I try and specialize in a few things, but try to be decent at many other things. I'm always trying to teach myself new tools, new tech, and get good at creative processes and communication skills lah. So having this mindset is what kind of, when I was doing freelancing, it helped to keep a steady stream of clients and projects lah for me.
Okay, that's really good to know. And sort of as to end off, and we're going to our portfolio session. Thanks for raising that as being one of the important things. You know, you guys have done freelancing before. Some of us here very new to it, not too sure. What would you not do again? You know, what are some of the things if you were to, you know, go back to freelancing, what would you not do again as a freelancer? Maybe there are some lessons we can learn. Yeah.
For me, it would be to budget my money more effectively in terms of learning resources. So I'm a big spender I have a big of FOMO when I see online courses that can help with your business as a freelance and design. Yeah. So I still remember there was one time I spent close to 10K USD on this masterclass, and then it was more for brand designers, and then about how to raise your prices, and then so that was one of my biggest regrets. And then there were other things, like for example, if there's a Black Friday, and then I will buy all these free design resources, the tools, the little icons, thinking that I will use it in the future, like all the very nice typefaces, like it will be useful, I should buy it. Yeah, so I mean, there were pros and cons. So some of the things I really learned, and it's really it really like disciplined me to do certain things certain way, and then like stand my ground, holding boundaries with clients. But then other than that, I wished I slowed down a bit on the learning part. Yeah.
Learning, you were trying to acquire learning, or but then not actually being able to utilize it as much as you would like to.
Correct.
Okay. And what about Daryl? What would you say? Some of the things you would avoid doing?
I don't think I would have avoided doing anything per se, but I don't regret stuff that I never regret stuff that I do lah. I always try to make the best decision there and then when I'm making the decision. But I think if I could go back, some of the things that I would look at doubly hard, like some of the challenges, right? I think it would be the ability to network and find clients, because like I mentioned right at the start, I'm kind of just like autopilot, chill mode, right? I would see to that again, the ability to network and find clients, And that itself is a challenge because it's a completely different workload. Because finding work often starts, especially for freelancing, right? It's going to start like 85% of the job. Ideally, you can think about this, and if it doesn't go against your relationship with your employer, you can start freelancing while you're employed. And then you can consider how long it takes to land jobs and how the results will pay, the work out your initial plan and all that. So along the way, I would put more time in learning basic bookkeeping and account and save a certain percentage for unexpected stuff for taxes and whatnot. Because really it's a very unpredictable path, right? I started off as a designer, like I want to do design, right? What do I know about business? What do I know about sales? What do I know about bookkeeping? So in itself, it's a very unpredictable career path. You are going to have feast and famine periods, slow periods, crunch time. So it's always good to have a squirrel fund. I agree with Adila because I like to spend money, so who doesn't? So other things to think about, I would have tried to manage client expectations better. Because as a freelancer, when you're doing this, you are, bear in mind that you are responsible for all client expectations in the case of unreasonable requests. Okay. So those are just some of the things that I think I would spend more time thinking about and trying to put some sort of process into place. But then again, you learn about these things along the way. Like I said, I don't know what I don't know because I'm a designer. I don't really care for business stuff. Then as you go along, then you learn . So that is my what I would have done differently.
Well, thank you both for sharing your experiences in freelancing, and I'm sure many of us here have benefited from your wisdom. I think there are a lot more information out there about freelancing that you can read about and you can acquire. We even did like a YouTube video about like how to work backwards and calculate your own pricing. It's on our YouTube channel. You can do a search on Curious Core. But I'd like to thank Adila and Daryl on this session, and I will start recording.